Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to be looking at creating great action set pieces. Now, my assumption is that you're somebody who is writing action or wants to, so hopefully everything we say today and do will make a difference for you. That's our objective. So we'll start out by looking at the key components of an action set piece so that you're really clear on those. From there, we'll go to how to create those action set pieces. In the midst of that, I'll do an analysis of the horse stable scene. Hopefully you had a chance to watch that. If you didn't recently, you will probably remember it almost instantly once we start talking about it. I'll do a quick demo to show you a way to create unique action scripts and stories that make it easy for you to be able to step in and create something, write something. And then we'll talk about the upcoming class, Writing Killer Action Scripts. For those of you who want to win contest or get your script optioned or into an agent or manager or any of those kinds of things. So let's do this. First, just kind of a quick review on types of action. There's fights. There's all kinds of types of action. I'm just going to give you the general ones here. There's fights, right? Which of course show up in John Wick. There's chases. He's being chased all the way through John Wick 3. There's stunts. We see a lot of those. Destruction. Things are being broken and like when he's in the hall of weapons, they end up breaking all those windows and throwing weapons at each other. There's escapes, which is what he's trying to do throughout that entire movie. And there are rescues. So if you can become great at writing every one of these and getting as much drama, as much action, as much interest and emotion as possible, you're going to be a great writer. And that's what we're all working towards, right? So, key components of an action set piece. First, let's be clear on what this is. An action set piece. This is an action sequence that stands out due to its size, spectacle, or thrilling nature. It wows the audience. So when somebody says the words action set piece, what you want to be thinking is, what's the big action that people will remember this screenplay for or this movie for? And usually, especially nowadays, there's going to be, 3 or 4 really strong action set pieces in any kind of major action movie. Maybe more, but if every single one of them is like shocking, surprising, beyond what we've ever seen or that kind of thing, it has a tendency to make some of the most important ones not stand out. So what you're looking to do is to be able to take an action scene and double or triple the impact of it, and the spectacle of it, where they go right there. So the components. First, you've got intense action. So when you're thinking about writing this, be thinking, what is the intense action? Not just light, not something we've seen before. You've got some kind of major conflict happening there, right? Which is obviously, if there's action, especially if it's this kind of action, there clearly is some kind of conflict. But if you're looking at like action stories, we just had a new Brad Pitt one come out that has action in it, but most of it isn't violent. But there's still, you want to build some kind of major conflict into what's going on so the audience is deeply engaged in it. You want to have unique visuals. What can you present that's something surprising visually and entertaining? And of course, does all of these other things. And then it needs to be integral to the story. I've seen some action scripts where they'll suddenly burst into a chase scene and it wasn't set up and it didn't have anything to do with the story. Maybe that was just the person was going along as they were writing it and they thought, wow, I'll just put a chase scene in here. But they didn't think of setting it up and really making it fit. So you want to do that. We should never go into an action scene and go, why is this happening? Right? So that's important. Here's what's not a set piece. Let's say John Wick gets into a three-punch fight, knocks the guy out, and runs. Now there's action there. There's danger to John maybe, and maybe the person he just knocks out. But this isn't a set piece. This isn't something that people are going to go, oh my God, you've got to see that. Because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the, oh my God experience kind of thing. So starting out, knowing that, now let's talk about how to do it. So step one, question is, what is the unique action, right? This is a really important word here. Action audiences have seen everything. And our job is to find some way to make it unique, find some way to have it stand out, find some way to cause the person watching to go, oh my God, that's amazing. So first, what haven't we seen with this type of action? You may have the same kind of chase scene, but is there something you could do that we haven't seen? Something different, something that's outside the box. The person being chased jumped into a car that was full of ants, and now they're being bitten like crazy the whole time it's happened. I don't know. I'm just making things up, but it's like you want to do that. You want to ask those kinds of questions so that you can come up with something that's unique, that's compelling, something that there is some aspect of it that we haven't seen before. What new kind of component, a weapon, vehicle, whatever, could be used, right? How could, if they're in, like, let's say they're in a vehicle, a chase, is there something they could be chased in? They could be in while they're being chased or being chased by that we haven't seen. If they're being chased by a bulldozer and they just happen to have gone into an area that was secluded and there was no way they could get out of there, that might be the perfect vehicle to be chasing them. What haven't we seen again? So, how can the same situation, same weapon, same conflict be presented differently? You know, and just I'm just saying things that come to me here, but it's like uh, if the person who's trying to escape has a little baby with them, that escape's going to be very different than if they're somebody who is used to fighting, very successful at it, has nothing impeding them whatsoever, right? So you can take the same kind of situation, same kind of weapon, same kind of conflict, and by changing one thing, present it in a unique way. And then what new danger could surprise the hero? And this could be, again, this could be a danger that we've never seen, right? It's like you might think of a type of alien or a type of alien situation that is not only outside the box, but has never been played on this earth. That might be completely unique. Or you might put them in some kind of danger that is pretty standard, but because of the way it surprised the hero, takes us completely off guard. So when you're creating, you want to be asking these 4 questions right off the bat. Because here's the difference. If you have a scene, an action set piece that is something we've seen in 5 other movies before, people are going to go, okay, and especially the readers, the ones who are reading your script, who are going to say to the producer, yes, we should option this and move forward, or no, we shouldn't. If they see something that's cliche, that gives them an excuse to stop right then. and just say it's a no. So don't let that happen. So it is worth having this conversation in the first draft, second draft, all the way until you get to the point where you've locked that script. You still could find a way to make that action even more unique. So a couple of ways to do that. Brainstorm possible forms of the action, right? The environment as a weapon for John Wick. Using the horse to buck those two guys' heads. Wow, that was intense. And I don't know if you remember the first time you saw that. To me, it was shocking, it was surprising, and it was like brilliant. A unique weapon. He then used the reins put around the hitman's neck and dragged him. That was at least somewhat unique. New fighting style. Now, sometimes this happens. By the way, in the first John Wick, he used gun fu. That was something that was new. And for anybody who doesn't believe that that's real, just go look it up on Wikipedia, and you'll see there's an entire martial art built around being able to jump, fly, kick, punch, all while firing your gun at targets and not blowing your legs off. And in this case, maybe he used horse fu. Surprising action, the first time the horse kicked, that was incredibly surprising. And then unexpected opposition, we didn't expect the motorcycles. Now, if you go back and watch it, it's like there was a cut to the motorcycles sitting there watching about the time that John Wick came in. And then we cut away from that. But that didn't necessarily mean that they were going to go after him. So in that case, it was unexpected opposition. Again, a whole series of different ways to be able to make your action unique. Set piece step 2. Where does it start? Where does it end? So the start and the ending need to show a change. And this is kind of important. I have seen action movies, especially ones done by indie directors, where they wrote the script and then they shot it themselves, where the entire action sequence would happen and nothing actually changed. The character didn't change. The damage to the character didn't change. The fear level didn't change. Nothing changed. It was like the character stepped out into this action sequence and then just stepped back into their life exactly the way it was. It can't end up being the same. You need to make some kind of change during this. Here, in this case, in the start, John runs into a horse stables looking for safety. And it looks okay. There's a lot of people in there. There's horses milling around. There are lots of places to hide. Right? John has pretty much what he's looking for. By the end, he canters a horse out down a crowded street, having just killed 2 motorcycle hitmen. Things have changed in a bunch of ways. He's more damaged. He has now killed 6 more people. And he is actually, in this case, getting away from where he originally started, which is kind of important when you have a whole bunch of hitmen after you. So, step 3, how does the action escalate? So, this is the other thing that's different, that's important. It's like, again, I see a lot of scripts where the action starts and it's big and it stays big and then it's over. Start safe. Everything's okay for a moment. Go from there to some danger, then to more danger, and then to extreme danger. If you do this, what happens is the audience is connected here. They're relieved. Everything's going to be okay. And then it starts to escalate until finally it gets to the point of extreme danger, and then we exit. So you have connected with the audience, and because of that, they go on that journey with you. You also have brought us in a way that We feel all right. We have relief. There's that particular emotion. By the time we're done with this, we're almost terrified or some other emotion that goes with that. We have a whole series of different action emotions that could occur, but it's like there's been a change in how we feel and what we've gone through. And after some action scenes, it's like, wow, our body has been so tense, we're exhausted almost. And if you can write that, that's incredible. So here, again, it starts safe. He goes into the stables looking for a hiding place. Then some danger, Hitman 1 comes in. He takes out Hitman 1, then more danger, Hitman 2 and 3, and then finally extreme danger, motorcycles versus a horse. And why I'm going to call this extreme danger, there's like no moment in that where that horse is safe. Cheryl and I own some horses. I would never run a horse down a street like that. Just running a horse down a street like that could cause danger. But having motorcycles coming after it causes even more. The horse could freak out at any moment, that kind of thing. But also, these guys have more kind of control over what they're doing. They also have a better chance of being able to take out the horse's legs. All kinds of things could happen. So it's not just that they could shoot them. There's other things going on. I think anybody who has ever been around a horse would say this was a pretty dangerous situation. And by the way, their stunt horses were incredible in that situation. Step 4, what demanded this action? This is the other part. If you're going to have action scene after action scene after action scene, you need to create a demand for it. Now, remember here, we're in the third in a series of action movies for John Wick. In the first one, it was like most of the action happened in the final act. It was we saw some action in the beginning, we had some action at the end of the first act, probably at the midpoint, and then the entire final act was non-stop action. But it was demanded. There was a reason. And by the way, if you went back and you watched that first John Wick, and let's say you were late to the theater, you came in at the end of the first act, the point at which, or middle, a little further in, the point at which he had decided he was going to go after these guys. What we would see basically is a guy doing mass murders, right? Because of the way they set it up, we actually went with him on that journey and rooted for him. So there were things that happened early on. First, there was the demand for the action, but there was also the way it was set up. The whole thing was set up so that we went on that journey with them. So that's part of what this is about. So know this, action happens for a reason. Especially when you're talking about this kind of action, well, actually in any action story, but this kind of action where somebody is fighting lots of people and killing people and that kind of thing, uh, that doesn't just happen for no reason. Unless what you're doing is you're showing us who the serial killer is that the good guy or the good woman is going to come up against and take out. And in that case, then the serial killer doing their thing becomes the demand for the action. So it's demanded, forced, or required in some way. Otherwise, it's just too extreme. For John Wick, the reason that this whole thing happened is because he's wanted, right? They have a $14 million bounty they put out on him right off the bat. It's like the movie starts and they're putting out this bounty. They give an hour and they say it's going to be live in an hour. So that means John has an hour to get away. At least that's what we think at that point. And second reason that all of the action that he does is warranted is because every hitman is after him. And this is an organization that is filled with different types of hitmen and hitwomen who are all incredibly badass and well trained. So, set piece number 5, step 5 here. We need insights into the hero or the villain. So, if you're going to show us all this action, there needs to be some depth to it. There needs to be something that goes on. And this is one part of the depth. It's like we need to first see the hero in action doing something that's uniquely them. If you have them doing something that's uniquely them, it's so much easier for people to, it's like when this moment happened right here, there's an insight. There's something that we learned in that moment. Not just that horses could kick, and by the way, you shouldn't be standing behind them ever. Uh, you know, but there's a bigger insight than that. So, and that's your question. It's what insight about them comes from their decisions and their action. So, what are we learning in the midst of this? Right? We've got a character in action, and they're not just in action, they're in extreme action. So, we should be seeing something that tells us something about them, right? And by the way, here's another part. Do they make a moral decision? So, let's go over here. Let's take a look. Insight number 1 for John. The hitmen are good. All the hitmen that come after him are highly skilled, right? But John is creative in the midst of the fighting, right? He is creative under fire. He uses the environment as a weapon. So we saw that right there. This is, that was just shocking when that happened. And maybe on my end, it's because I've been around horses a lot and we have seen people who've been kicked by them, and it's not a good thing. But I don't think this guy made it. That's my guess. Insight number 2, he makes a moral decision, and you have to go back and watch that scene, but you'll see John is preventing the hitman from being able to shoot the horses. And I don't think the hitman is intentionally trying to shoot the horses, but there's a point there where the guy fires off like 4 or 5 shots, and John is keeping his hand pointing away from that horse. So this is you'd say a light moral decision, but if you just go look in all of the, YouTube comments, there's a bunch of people that talk about this, that he directed the gun away from the horses. So it had a meaning to them. So we learned in this particular action sequence, we learned 2 things about John here that give us insight into who he is. So now, when you're creating these action set pieces, first thing you want to look for is that setup. What's that motivation, right? And in this case, again, it was a $14 million bounty. But whatever the setup is, needs to have us go, yeah, it makes sense. We're in the midst of this action situation, and it needs to give us whatever that minimum is. There's other things that were built in the setup here. The whole first two movies that we saw were also part of the setup, essentially. We know this guy. The first time we ever met him, if you look back then, we saw him and his wife. He's emotionally damaged. He's hurt. She sends him a puppy as the last gift, all that kind of thing. He finally gets to where he can get up out of bed. He's been going through a lot. Then we watch him get beat up. If we paused at the end of that, and the puppy gets killed, if we paused at the end of that, we wouldn't have any idea who he is. We would only know those parts, right? It's what he did next that's part of the setup that has us believe he can do all these things that he is doing. Then you need pre-action. So what happens before the action? In this case, there were hitmen attacked him in the Hall of Weapons. He fought them off. But sometimes the pre-action is us seeing the relationship with somebody else. Like, again, go back to John Wick 1. that relationship between him and the little puppy and the reason for that relationship and all of that was part of the pre-action that had us go with him when he went on his journey to kill 76 Russian hitmen. uh, so in this one, what we saw here was that this thing is serious. And it's not just one or two hitmen that are coming at him at any moment. I think there were 4 or 5 in that first one, and then we had 4 in this one, and 2 outside the 2 motorcycles, right? So he's got a barrage of attacks coming after him he has to deal with. Then the action, fighting the 4 killers in the horse stable, right? The unique part to that, you need to build in using the horses as weapons. The post action, he escapes on a horse, and you'll see here he's fighting the motorcycle that's right over here. And the escalation from ducking into the stables to using the horses to kill 4 guys to fighting off the motorcycle killers. And finally, then the insight. What is it about this guy? He's able to be creative under fire. He can turn anything into a weapon. If you create set pieces that follow all of those, you've got a really good chance people are going to love what you bring to the table in that case. Now, let me just do a quick demonstration here. I want to show you something. Let me think. Yeah. So, oops, just a second. Yeah. So the question is, how do you create these stories? And this is, you guys know this is ChatGPT. And we use ChatGPT from time to time to brainstorm. It's actually pretty good at that. I don't think it's great at writing scripts. Please don't use it to write a script. If you do, you won't be able to get a copyright on it. So we don't believe in that. And at the same time, we don't believe in you as a creative person giving your creativity away to anybody. However, the thing that I think holds people back the most is just coming up with a great idea. How do you come up with something that really does have a chance? So let me show you a possibility here. Oops, excuse me, just a second. So what I did was I just put in an idea, and I used a prompt, a high-level prompt that we use. We've designed a whole bunch of prompts for how to be able to create and brainstorm better as a writer. But this was a simple idea. A high security moon prison collapses into underground tunnels that house aliens that are prepared to attack Earth. So that's something I thought of about 3 or 4 months ago. I haven't done anything with it. I just thought of it. It's just in a list of about 100 different ideas that I had. So I pulled that out for this. But basically what I'm doing is I'm asking it and had it create this, right? It's telling me the high concept, a version of the high concept, right? In this case, it came up with a war-hardened ex-soldier wrongly imprisoned in a maximum security lunar penitentiary must lead a breakout through hostile alien-infested tunnels to stop the impending invasion of Earth. So that's pretty much a version of what I said. It gives us a little more details and that kind of thing. It tells us who the hero is in this case. Not bad. Who the antagonist might be, gives us 1 or 2 sentences on each of those, gives us some of the basic conventions in the situation. So what's the demand for action? What's the mission? What's the escalating action? What's the final image? Now, what this does, just doing this one brainstorm session, is it sets it up so at least I can look at something and start to make a decision. Is this something I want to write? Now, the way I did that one is it doesn't just have one, it gives us actually 3 of these. And each one of them gives us a chance to think about here's another version. Here's something that's kind of completely different. Here is another way to think of this particular idea. This is incredibly important, especially if your idea isn't something that has never been seen before. If your idea is an action story that's kind of like a bunch of other action stories, you need it to give you at least these three so you can think outside the box. So you can say, oh, let me try on this high concept rather than the one that I originally thought of. And on top of that, what these do is they give you the chance to look at other possibilities and go, oh, I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't do that, but what I would do is maybe this. And so it triggers creativity if you do this process correctly. Please, if you do this, please don't go through and just say, oh, I'm going to take it verbatim without any thinking. You need to bring you to the table in this situation. Now, let's take it a step further. Let's say we take this one. Well, here, we'll go to the first one since I read the first one to you. And by the way, you can take a look and see, do you like that title or would you like something different? But with this, just a moment. Now let me show you the next step. So we have something, we've picked something here that we've kind of got now a good idea of how it works. But I want to take it a step further so you can see this. And now what we're doing is we're asking it for our characters. So here it gives us, here's our hero. It's Kate Voss. Cade Voss. You may like that name, you may not. You change it, whatever you want to do. Here's their unique skill set. This is a former Black Ops tactician. Okay. Here's their motivation. What's motivating them to want to do this? Here's their secret or their wound. So at least these aren't complete character profiles here. We'll do those in the class, but at least this gives you a chance to kind of look at that character, think a little bit about who they are, how they may play out in your story. Here's our villain. We're going to find out what makes them unbeatable in the beginning. Incredibly important. If your villain isn't unbeatable, you haven't gone far enough. What's their plan or their goal that actually the hero has to disrupt in some way? And what happens? What do they lose if the hero survives? So you want a villain who is going to do whatever it takes to make sure that hero doesn't survive. If you have that, if they're unbeatable, they have a plan or goal that goes outside the box and is something that that hero doesn't want to happen, and they have a reason that that hero needs to die, you've got a lot better story here. So then at that point, then it gives you a 3-act structure. And again, I'm not saying that you would use every single bit of this or even do, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. But my advice would be that you read through it, you really think about it. And in the midst of doing that, you keep asking yourself, well, wait a minute, what do I like better? What would I rather do? You might keep 30% of this, 40, 50% of it. It's up to you. But the truth of the matter is along the way, you're going to get a chance to at least see a way this story could play out and start to think about what could be possible for this story for you. So we have Act 1, which has the opening, the inciting incident, the first turning point. Then we go to Act 2, which has the hero comes up with a new plan. There's a midpoint twist and a major second act turning point, right? So we've got this midpoint twist, the right in the very middle. This is going to be some kind of major change. Second act turning point is the all is lost moment. And that finally takes us into the final act where we have the climax and the resolution. Now, again, what this does is it gives you a chance to see this story in action. Now, there's a reason why I'm showing you this. So let me just take you back for just a moment over here. And I just want you to see this possibility. So essentially, you're coming out let's say you run this one time. You've got at least somewhat unique concept and title. You've got a hero and a villain, and you've got a 3-act structure. This is enough for you to be able to tell if this is something you want to write. And you can go back and, of course, you change anything that you think needs to be changed and you write it your own way. You're going to then be as creative as possible and come up with something absolutely amazing. Now, we'll take this a step further, and I'll tell you how this works in a moment here. But basically, you're going to spend 60 to 90 days writing an action script. If you go through our class, you'll spend 30 days getting the entire thing prepared, making sure every bit of it works, and then you'll spend about 30 days writing the drafts. The higher your skill level, the more creative you'll be. And I think anybody knows that. But also, the higher your skill level, the more successful you'll be once that script is done. So what if you came into it with professional level skills and made it truly amazing? Right? That's absolutely possible nowadays. You can use AI to brainstorm early ideas until you come up with something that you think is completely amazing and something unique we haven't seen. And then you bring it into this class and we go through every step of professional level action writing skills. We designed this class after I interviewed about 10 big action writers, including some of them who have written for Marvel. So the ones I interviewed have written some of the biggest movies we've seen in action. It starts, you're coming in with whatever you created. And by the way, what I'm going to recommend is that you use the AI to brainstorm at least 5 different possible ideas before you come in. So when you get here, you're going to pick the very best of those 5. You'll bring it into lesson 1, and you will make a series of changes to it that will make it even better. From there, we go to lesson 2. You're going to look at your hero and your villain, because these sell the roles, and your job is to make sure these two are something that an actor would want to play. And there are specific things that actors want. We've interviewed a whole bunch of them and their actors' production companies to find out. That's built in. From there, you're going to choose the mission. What is the mission that this hero is on? And there is either a clear mission that has been given to them, like in Mission Impossible. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is, or there's an implied mission, as in what we just saw, John Wick 3. He's on a mission to save his life, and and he's just going for it. So you're going to choose the mission that fits the concept, the hero, and the villain best, and is going to be the most marketable, going to give you the best chance of success. From there, you then create what we call the mission track. And the 3 things we're about to do, most people don't do. Most people just come up with an idea and they just start writing. But what we're going to do is you're going to lay that mission out all the way across the entire story. It's like, where does it start? When do we get the mission? What are the obstacles? What's keeping the person from doing them? What is the difficulty of that mission? How do you make that mission unique and compelling? And by the end, how does the hero complete the mission by going through the most danger possible? So you're going to lay that all out start to finish. Then you're going to go to the villain track, and you're going to say, based on who this villain is, what actions would they have taken before the story starts, during the story, as the hero is doing things? How would they be responding based on who they are? And how do they ultimately try to bring the hero's life to a close? Then you will go to the action track. What is the series of action sequences that are going to happen throughout this story? So I just walked you through one, so you had a chance to see it, but you'll create a whole series of them for your project, and it'll be based on what needs to happen in the first act, the second act, the final act. From there, you will put all of those together, and that will become your plot. Now, think about this for a moment. What most people do is they write dramas with action elements, or they'll write a drama and then they'll build some action into it. What we're doing is we are making the entire thing an incredibly strong action story in these tracks. So by the time you get to the point of putting together your plot, any action producer that reads your script will go, wow, this is an amazing action story. From there, we do the why do we care? Has to be in there. This is what had us go with John Wick through all three of these sequels that have happened after the first one, because we cared about him in the beginning. Then it's about building in twists, turns, reversals, and betrayal. And you need to become a master at these things. I know most people can come up with a couple of good twists and turns and that kind of thing, but you need to be able to brainstorm 10, 15, 20 for every major twist you're going to put in your story and come up with the absolute best that serves your story and surprises your audience. From there, now we're going to go into the action emotions. And we actually have a whole series of them here. I think there's like 10 action emotions. But these, it's like I'm going to give you the easiest way to think about this. You'll be able to look at any scene and instantly know how to build suspense into it, how to build fear, how to build shock, how to build anguish or intrigue, right? All of these action emotions, there's a difference between when somebody has a character talking about it, like for instance, intrigue, versus the audience being deeply engaged in trying to understand what's going on under the surface and trying to figure out how's that going to impact this hero in this situation. From there, then you're going to compile your map, which will be all of this put together, and then you go into creating great action scenes. Now, we talked about little pieces of this today, but once you have this model, you'll be able to look at any action scene and just go, okay, I have a good idea here. How do I make it great? And then how do I deliver it in a way that causes the audience to be deeply engaged? From there, I'm going to give you 5 ways to write nail-biting description. Strangely enough, this is the question I get most from people. They'll say, how do I write the action description in a way that causes the reader to feel it? Right? And it's like, yeah, there's certain ways to do that. And we actually have a couple of them here. But I'm going to give you 5 specific ways that we've seen in all the best scripts on how to actually write it so that the reader lives it as they read through it. So it's not just a whole bunch of information. It's not just a bunch of story beats. It actually is something that causes the reader to see it and to feel it every step of the way. So this program, it starts on, let's see, July 7th. That gives you about a week or so to be able to brainstorm ideas. As soon as you sign up, you will get the prompts so that you can start immediately brainstorming. I'm going to give you a special in just a moment here, but when you get the prompts, what I suggest is you go over to ChatGPT and you at least run one version through, like what you just saw me do, and stand back and look at them and see if there's something there you want to write. Then spend a day or so thinking about it, working with it, uh, and then create the next one. Do that with at least 3 to 5, and you will end up with a project that's incredible that you will bring into this class and you will write in a way that is the best writing you've ever done in your life. The normal price on this class is $199. Now, let me give you a special. This is for the first 10 that sign up. You get in for the special price of $129. All you got to do is click the box up in the right-hand corner and join us. For the second 10, you're going to get in at $149. Then the third 10 get in at $179.
and from there it moves to full price. That's the way our system is set right now. At this point, there's nothing I can do about that. But what I would encourage you to do is to get in as quickly as you can and give this class your all.
So whatever price you get in at this, I promise you, this will change your life as an action writer. And this will give you 5 times the chance of success. So come join us. I promise you, you will love this program and what it does for your action screenplay. With that, it was great hanging out with you. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, wishing you the absolute best in your writing and the best with your action screenplay that you create with us. Bye-bye, everyone.